Good day. This is the Corrupt True Crime Podcast, and I'm Charlie Cruz. Today's episode is about one of the most audacious heists in modern history, where thieves methodically cleared 2,700 safety deposit boxes and escaped with a staggering 30 million euros in cash, jewels, and valuables. The drill bit is 3 inches wide, industrial grade, the kind that chews through reinforced concrete like chalk. It's just past midnight on a Saturday in late December, and somewhere beneath a Sparkasse bank in Gelsenkirchen, Germany, that drill is screaming through a basement wall. The sound should be deafening, should have half the neighborhood calling the police. But here's the thing about Christmas week in a quiet German city. Everyone's home. Everyone's had a few glasses of wine, and that distant grinding noise could be construction, could be nothing, could be the most audacious bank heist Germany's seen in decades. By the time the drill punches through, the crew's got a hole big enough to walk through. On one side, a parking garage. On the other, a vault containing 3,000 safety deposit boxes stuffed with 40 years of family savings, gold bars, jewelry, cash that never saw the inside of a tax return. The thieves step through their handmade doorway like they're walking into a shopping mall. And for the next several hours, that's exactly what they do. Shop. They crack open box after box after box, methodical, professional, completely undisturbed. By Monday morning, when the fire alarm finally brings police and firefighters running, the crew's long gone. So is somewhere between 10 and 90 million euros. Now, you've got to understand something about bank heists in the modern era. They don't happen. Not like this. Security's too tight. Surveillance too pervasive. The risk-reward calculation too lopsided. You rob a bank. You're on camera. You're tracked. You're caught within 48 hours. That's the conventional wisdom. But conventional wisdom assumes you're going through the front door. The Sparkasse branch in Gelsenkirchen sits in a typical German commercial district. Solid, respectable, the kind of bank where families have kept accounts for generations. The building's vault is exactly where you'd expect. Basement level, reinforced concrete, the whole fortress approach to security, thick walls, limited access points, alarm systems, everything designed to keep the bad guys out, except the architects made one miscalculation. Right next door, connected by nothing more than a concrete wall, sits a public parking garage, and concrete, no matter how thick, is just stone and cement. You bring the right drill, enough time, and sufficient audacity, you can go through it like a hot knife through butter. The crew that pulled this off weren't amateurs. You don't acquire the kind of industrial drilling equipment they used at your local hardware store. We're talking specialized gear, the sort that requires training to operate, that costs serious money to rent or buy. Police later said it flat out. You don't find this kind of drill in a hardware store, which means these weren't opportunistic thieves who got lucky. This was planned, researched, rehearsed. Someone scouted that parking garage, measured distances, studied the bank's layout. Someone knew the vault was on the other side of that wall. Someone knew Christmas week would provide the perfect window. Minimal staff, reduced security presence, days when the bank would be completely closed. The timeline starts coming together when witnesses report seeing several men in the parking garage stairwell on Saturday night, hauling large bags. Not small bags, not gym bags, large bags, the kind you'd need to transport industrial equipment, or to carry out millions in gold and cash. At the time, nobody thought much of it. People move things. It's a parking garage. But those men were setting up, positioning their drill, preparing to spend the next several hours turning a bank vault into a crime scene. Saturday night, the fire alarm goes off at the bank. Police respond, check the building, find nothing, no damage, no signs of intrusion. They log it as a false alarm and leave. Now here's where it gets interesting. Was that the thieves testing the response time? Seeing how long it takes for authorities to arrive? How thoroughly they search? Or was it an accidental trigger while they were drilling? A close call that should have blown the whole operation but got dismissed as a malfunction? We don't know. What we do know is that alarm should have been a red flag. Should have prompted a more thorough investigation. It didn't. The drilling operation itself must have taken hours. You're going through thick concrete, trying to create a hole large enough for grown men to climb through, large enough to pass bags of stolen property back and forth. It's loud, it's dusty, it's physically demanding work. And it's happening in a parking garage where, theoretically, people could wander by at any moment. But Christmas week, late at night, in a quiet commercial district, the crew gambled on isolation, and they won. By early Monday morning, they're through. The hole's complete, and they're inside the vault. 3,000 safety deposit boxes are arranged in neat rows, each one containing somebody's most valuable possessions. The thieves don't discriminate. They go through them systematically, cracking locks, emptying contents, moving down the line. Cash gets stuffed into bags, gold bars, jewelry, anything portable and valuable. One victim later described 40 years of family savings, accumulated through decades of work, kept in that vault because they trusted it more than any other security. Gone in minutes. The scale of what they took is staggering. Over 95% of the bank's safety deposit boxes were compromised. 2,700 customers affected. The estimated value ranges from 10 million euros on the conservative end to 90 million on the high end. Security sources later settled on around 30 million as the most likely figure. Even at the low end, that's one of the largest bank heists in German history. At the high end, it's legendary.
My name is Tom Sachs. I'm an artist in New York City. For nearly 2 decades, I have been collaborating with Nike.
Nike running is for runners. Nike basketball is for basketball. Nike craft is for everyone else.
Around 4 a.m. Monday, the fire alarm triggers again. This time, when police and firefighters arrive, they find the hole. They find the ransacked vault. They find 3,000 empty boxes and no thieves. Surveillance footage from the parking garage shows masked individuals loading bags into a black Audi RS6. Not just any Audi, but the RS6, the high-performance variant, the kind of car that can outrun pretty much anything on the road. The license plates are stolen, lifted from a vehicle in Hanover 200 kilometers away. There's also a white Mercedes van involved. Both vehicles leave the garage and disappear into the night. Now the clock's ticking for investigators, but they're already behind. The thieves have hours of head start, multiple vehicles, and clearly planned escape routes. The stolen plates mean automated license plate readers are useless. The masks mean facial recognition is out. The professional execution means these aren't local kids who'll brag at a bar. These are experienced criminals who know how to stay quiet. By Tuesday, the bank's still closed. Approximately 200 frustrated customers gather outside demanding information. What was in their boxes? Is it gone? What about insurance? The crowd's chanting, "We're Wallen Rain, we want in," and the situation's escalating to the point where police maintain a presence due to concerns about bank employee safety. You've got to understand the psychology here. These aren't just customers who lost money. These are people who lost family heirlooms, emergency funds, irreplaceable documents. Things they believed were absolutely secure, now vanished, and the bank can't even let them inside to confirm what's missing. The insurance situation adds insult to injury. Each safety deposit box is insured for 10,300 euros unless the customer bought additional private coverage. For many victims, that's a fraction of what they lost. One family kept cash and gold accumulated over 4 decades, their entire life savings, in a single box. The standard insurance won't come close to covering it. They're financially devastated, and there's no clear path to recovery. Police release the surveillance footage, hoping someone recognizes the vehicles or the suspects. The images show masked men, some wearing distinctive colored gloves, moving with purpose and coordination. Tips start coming in, dozens of them. The footage spreads through WhatsApp groups among victims, everyone trying to play detective, everyone desperate for answers. But when police speak to the media on New Year's Day, they're candid about where the investigation stands. Eine richtig heiße Spur ist nicht dabei. A really hot lead is not among them. Despite the footage, despite the witnesses, despite the dozens of tips, they've got nothing solid. And that's where the brilliance of this heist becomes apparent. The crew didn't just plan the robbery, they planned the aftermath. Stolen plates from a city 200 kilometers away means the vehicles can't be traced. Masks and gloves mean no forensic evidence. The Christmas timing means by the time the crime's discovered, they've had days to move the property, stash the vehicles, disappear. The specialized equipment suggests they're part of a network, possibly connected to other European heists. There's a pattern here, professional crews hitting high-value targets with military precision. But here's the thing about brilliant crimes. They're only brilliant until they're not. Because somewhere in that crew, somebody's going to make a mistake. Somebody's going to spend too much money too fast. Somebody's going to try to fence a piece of jewelry that's too distinctive. Somebody's going to talk to the wrong person after a few drinks. The gold bars especially, Those are hard to move without attracting attention. You can't just walk into a pawn shop with a bag full of gold and expect no questions. The investigation's ongoing. Police are analyzing forensic evidence from the drilling site, tracking down leads on where that specialized equipment came from, following the money trail on those vehicles. They're coordinating with other European law enforcement agencies, looking for connections to similar heists. They're interviewing witnesses, reviewing hours of additional surveillance footage from surrounding areas, building a timeline of every movement those vehicles made. And they're patient, because the other thing about brilliant crimes is they often unravel slowly. It might take months, it might take years, but that 30 million euros has to surface somewhere. Those thieves have to live their lives, spend their money, interact with the world, and every interaction is a potential thread that investigators can pull. The Sparkasse has promised to stand by its customers, work with insurers, do everything possible to make victims whole. But the reality is harsh. Most of those people will never recover what they lost. The bank's reviewing security at all its branches, particularly those with basement vaults adjacent to other buildings. The parking garage access point that made this heist possible is now an obvious vulnerability that needs addressing. Other banks across Germany are presumably doing the same calculations, reinforcing walls, installing additional sensors, rethinking the whole concept of vault security in an era where determined criminals have access to industrial equipment.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
For the victims, there's no satisfying resolution yet. Their savings are gone, their heirlooms vanished, their trust in institutional security shattered. The 2,700 people affected by this heist aren't statistics. They're families who saved for decades, elderly couples who kept emergency funds in case of crisis, immigrants who didn't trust traditional banking systems and chose physical security instead. All of them impacted by thieves who saw their life's work as nothing more than a payday. The thieves are still out there. Maybe they're in Germany. Maybe they've fled to another country. Maybe they're already planning their next job, confident that their meticulous planning and professional execution will keep them ahead of the law. Maybe they're right. But history suggests otherwise. The audacity that makes a heist like this possible, the sheer nerve to drill through a bank wall and rob 3,000 safety deposit boxes, that same audacity tends to breed overconfidence, and overconfidence leads to mistakes. This case reminds us that security is only as strong as its weakest point. The Sparkasse had alarms, reinforced walls, all the traditional protections. But nobody thought about the parking garage. Nobody imagined someone would bring industrial drilling equipment and simply go through the wall. It's a failure of imagination, and it cost thousands of people everything they'd worked for. The investigation continues. The victims wait. And somewhere, a crew of thieves sits on one of the largest scores in German criminal history, hoping they were careful enough, smart enough, professional enough to get away with it. Time will tell if they were right. The thing about brilliant schemes is that they are seldom brilliant enough, and no matter how clever you are, the house almost always wins. Now, if you enjoyed our show, tap that follow button and 5 stars in our ratings. Catch you next time.
Grep News. Tamez.